the Attention Amber Media Studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is 2 Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Welcome back to the studio, Simon Provan. How are we doing, sir?
Doing well, Baxter.
Doing
a little frazzled today. You know, I've got
Your hair is a little all over the place. That's why I kept my hat on.
Well,
I look a little bit more put together.
It's funny because I bought myself a knit cap that's very much resembles yours as well. Just different colors, different entity. But I haven't had a knit cap in years.
I got my mine's a Green Bay Packer one. I got mine for Christmas 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's my favorite hat. It is so warm. We need to get 2 Up Front hats like this.
Yeah, well, winter is finally here. It has decided
with a vengeance.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
8 degrees today.
No, thank you. Lots of snow on the ground, too, but this is the type of winter that I don't like. I don't mind the 30 degrees and snowy winter.
Right,
I'll deal with that
for
5 months, whatever, but I hate the snow on the ground and single-digit weather.
Well, it's even sometimes the single digits can feel okay. It's the stinking wind chill that gets you.
That's what actually ends up killing everybody. It's why do I live in a place where the wind hurts my face? I'm I don't like that. But I go to think about, I'll move to Florida. I'm alligators, water moccasins, snakes. I'm well, I think I'm okay for now. We'll see. My wife is why do we live here? I'm I don't know.
It's true, though. When you do look at how safe you are of the elements compared to other places. You know, we don't get hurricanes here. We don't have scorpions running around. There's one rare poisonous snake in Wisconsin. Chances of running into that
you got to be in the deep woods to find them, basically.
So, the biggest thing you might deal with once in a while is a possible tornado, but even then, that tends to happen in central Wisconsin. Doesn't really happen in southeastern Wisconsin.
Exactly.
So it's overall
we haven't gotten a monsoon from the lake or anything, too. So I think we're okay. Or tsunamis, basically. But we've got a good show for you today. We've got 2 guests. One that you have heard on the show before, TC Ward. He'll be here to chat with us about the Champions League draw. Of course, no one knows the Champions League better than TC, of course, at least in Milwaukee. And in our second segment, making her debut on the show will be Seattle Reign head coach Laura Harvey. So I'm excited to hear her insight and her thoughts. And we have some people from Twitter as well that have questions that we need to share with her.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited to talk to her, too, about how she's going to replace that midfield of hers with, Keelan Winters not being there.
She did get Christine Nairn, though, so
we'll have to
see.
True.
But still,
that's true.
You lose a lot of great veterans, though. It's hard, regardless of 1 or 2 players, losing that kind of core veteran.
Yeah. Of course, let's not be remiss here. You can find us on Facebook as well. It's a great way to reach out to us. Find us on Twitter at 2Upfront Soccer. Make sure you use the number 2 there, as you had mentioned, Baxter. Some of our listeners have already done, wondering, hey, can you ask Coach Harvey about this, and this. You can also find our own Twitter handles at Simon Provan, at Baxter Colburn.
Yes, indeed. A lot of great stuff to get to on the show today. A lot of MLS stuff to get to just because the MLS season is finally over, so all the other crazy soccer stuff is okay, here we go. It's off-season, free agency, you've got everything going on now.
Yeah, what's interesting for us, Baxter, this is the first year that we really dove in deep on the NWSL.
Yes.
And we've enjoyed every minute of it.
Of course.
So this is our first off-season for both MLS and NWSL. Yep. Man, we're going to have to... we thought we were going to have to get creative with how do we handle these next couple of months, but if it continues like this, where every day there's big news coming out of MLS, these blockbuster trades happening in NWSL, hey, our job's taken care of for us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that one. It's always fun to kind of see what the offseason has in store, because a lot of these deals have been made for a couple of weeks, and then now it's okay, now we can officially announce the deals. So,
right.
A lot of good things to get to. But for MLS, the expansion draft takes place today for Atlanta and Minnesota. Kind of a cool thing when you go to MLSsoccer.com. Atlanta and Minnesota are now officially included on the left side of that little white line.
Sure.
So they are part of the official MLS. Only LAFC is the one on the outside of the line, but they'll be joining next year, of course. But Atlanta continues to make a lot of great moves. They had Sean Johnson, and they traded him away, but that was kind of a cool thing. I'm oh, good, they got a goalkeeper. But the big rumor is that Brad Guzan is going to be their goalkeeper. So he's not playing at Middlesbrough.
Just a quick thing. Are we officially kicking off the kick around here? Is this part of it?
I do believe so, yes.
Okay.
Kicking off the kick around, brought to you by Too Much Metal, for one hand.
And in case you're wondering about Too Much Metal, they sell rad t-shirts for rad people. Find them at toomuchmetal.com. Good friend Fred Gillick there.
He's a rad dude.
Owner, rad dude, and of course sponsor of 2 Up Front. But yeah, Baxter, what you were talking about with Minnesota and Atlanta, it's interesting because we see Minnesota signing their own players from...
3 defenders is what they have on their team currently.
Right, so they have the 2 defenders from the current Minnesota United, or the past Minnesota United. officially now.
Or whatever they are.
And then they traded for a player from Colorado.
Jonathan Greenspan or something
right,
like that.
Right, who, with the back line that Colorado has, Jonathan Greenspan's just not going to find time there. Not when you have Holberg, especially somebody like Holberg. He's not going to overtake that spot.
You're absolutely right about that. But it's interesting because if you look at the players available in the expansion draft, you look at the players that are eligible overall for MLS free agency. There's some notable names on these lists and notable players that could still make a difference, but you also have to ask the question, and anytime, of course, any free agency comes around, especially in MLS where the teams have a pretty good idea of, it's pretty quote-unquote easy to hold on to the players you want to. You see the players that aren't on these teams anymore, it's like, well, then how good are these players actually still? You look at a guy like Kevin Alston or, Chad Barrett. We know he's been out of the journeyman, basically, but Nat Borchers from Portland, kind of a thing. It's like, how good are some of these guys on the free agent market, actually still anymore?
Well, and one of the things you have to keep in mind is these MLS teams have to play some type of game. So sometimes they put players out there, like in the Galaxy's case, where they're putting Robbie Keane on there, they're putting Steven Gerrard, Landon Donovan. They're not going to get picked. For
expansion purposes, yes.
Right. So these are unprotected players, but it's a game that these MLS teams are playing in which basically they know Atlanta and Minnesota are not going to take these guys.
Yeah.
Now, interesting, though, when Vancouver came into the league, when I believe it was Jesse, or was it Montreal? One of the two. I think it was Vancouver.
Okay.
Houston Dynamo had not protected Brian Ching, and this is when Ching was a big deal in Houston.
Yeah.
Well, Vancouver said, we'll take him.
Cool, thanks.
So the Dynamo got ticked off. Brian Ching got ticked off, saying, this is like a gentleman's thing. You don't take Brian Ching. And Vancouver saying, guys, this is business.
Yeah. You left him out there.
And this is some of the things that these expansion teams can do. Be witty like this. Mm-hmm. So Vancouver knew that eventually Houston was going to have to give in and offer a bunch of money, which is exactly what Houston did. So Vancouver then, they worked the system. And that's now,
why not?
At the same time, as a fan, it can be incredibly frustrating. Mm-hmm. That it almost seems like every other year you have this expansion draft, and this is where a lot of fans are saying, okay, let's take a break, so the players that we love can actually stay with the team that they're with.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you, but it is kind of weird. It's almost like having to choose like your favorite child. I feel like it's like, who do I love more? But then it's like, but we do love you though, but we just can't protect you. It's like, well, how does that make sense? But you look at Toronto. Stephen Beitashour is on that list. A fantastic defender for them. Clint Irwin, their starting goalkeeper. Benoit Cheroux, starters that made a huge impact in the TFC. Will Johnson, he's also in free agency as well too. Either Will Johnson or Johnson Will, depending on how Soccer America has it. Has them list them twice. Will Johnson, and then underneath Johnson, Will.
Oh, is there?
I don't know why, but so I don't know which Will Johnson you're going to get depending on who you choose. But yeah, there's some big guys on here. Nelson Valdez from the Seattle Sounders, Quincy Amarikwa from San Jose. Obviously, each team gets 5 picks, so they're going to obviously be smart about it.
Right, and every time a player does get picked from said team, that team gets to take another player off of the unprotected list as well.
Well, they're excluded from it, if I'm not mistaken. Once a team has a player protected, then the whole team is gone.
Oh, is that what they're doing this year?
I think that's how it works.
Okay, because years past it was limited to 2 players being picked from a team, but that anytime a player was picked from a team, they got to remove somebody else from the unprotected list. But I also know that
it's all over the place.
Obviously, the owners and the expansion teams agreed on only 5 rounds, or 1 round of 5 rather than 1 round of 10, which is what they've done in years past.
Yeah, which would have been interesting, though. I mean, there's a lot of good players out there. I feel like 10 rounds could have really helped these teams really fill out a lot more instead of just giving them 5 players and then trying to use the salary cap or whatever you have to sign more players, especially for Minnesota.
Well, part of that is keep in mind that what the teams agreed to is that the 2 expansion teams get more targeted allocation money than anybody else. So they actually have an opportunity to go out and get their own players that they really do want.
Yeah, whether it's MLS free agency or Europe or Central America or any place like that.
And that's what's also interesting is their different approaches. I think you'll see Minnesota United use the expansion draft more than you will Atlanta United for actual players. Atlanta United, as we saw with the Sean Johnson deal, I think they're going to use this more for trade bait than anything to try to get more.
So.
And, that's what happened with the Sean Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
They got him. It was rumored that he was going to Atlanta, but all they wanted him for was to ship him off to New York and get more targeted allocation money and general allocation money.
And if you're Sean Johnson, you're like, thank you, because I actually am going to go play at a fairly decent team now instead of the Chicago Fire. No offense to the Chicago Fire, but NYCFC, for the most part, is a much better team. And I think if you're NYCFC, you're like, thank God no more Josh Saunders. Or the backup goalkeeper, because he was awful too.
My goodness. Now they got to shore up that back line,
they
though,
really do.
For NYCFC.
And I'm curious to see, kind of what all takes place. Harry Shipp is on this list as well, too, for Montreal. That's the rumor that one team will for sure go after Harry Shipp, a good young talent. Kind of fell off the face of the earth, though, this last year.
Well, you got to keep in mind he was injured for quite a bit of it well,
yes.
So you can't blame him too much. I'm going through the list, Baxter, as we speak here, and looking to see who else may get picked up. It looks like Minnesota's taken care of, for the most part, defensively. You wonder if, the two guys that they signed from their roster for their back line, if they end up being more of backups. But look at Toronto FC. If there's one player that I'm going to go for if you're Minnesota is Tosaint Ricketts.
Yes. He's a fun player to watch.
He's a fun player.
I enjoyed him in the final.
Even if you continue to use him as a super sub, I think he's a great striker to have on your team, Atlanta or Minnesota.
Yes.
I keep saying Minnesota again because I think Minnesota is going to use this more for players than Atlanta will. So that to me is one of the highlights out of everybody on these lists. That's an actual player that will get picked up.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, Laura Harvey of the Seattle Reign will be joining us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Stay tuned. It's 2 Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub. Welcome back inside the Attention Era Media Studios. It's 2 Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Rolling along with the program. Reminder, as Simon mentioned, to open the show. If you want to get out the show, you can do it on Facebook and more so on Twitter if you want to interact live with us. At 2 Up Front Soccer, at Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan. So great show for you so far, and some more exciting guests coming up for you as well. Staying with our great guests, we have the first of our two that will be joining us on the program here on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. If you've been to the Cascadia region, Simon, I know you're a fan of the Cascadia region. You've probably heard of the team, the Seattle Reign. They finished 8-6-6 in 2016. They just missed the playoffs by 2 points. But we get to chat with the lady that was able to command Seattle to another good season, but has been a huge influence on, I believe, the soccer scene in that Cascadia region. It's Laura Harvey of the Seattle Reign, and she joins us now. Laura, thanks so much for taking time to join us. How are you doing today?
Morning. I'm good, thank you.
Oh, we're excited to have you on. I guess it is morning over there for you. I mean, you guys, you're... are
2 hours behind.
You are 2 hours behind, yeah, I guess. So it is, it's mid-morning for you.
Always behind.
We're at lunchtime, I guess, for us now. But Laura, we're excited to have you on the show. Not too bad of a season from the Seattle Reign. 8-6-6. I know a little bit lower than I'm sure you and, frankly, a lot of the players on the team would have liked. But give us your thoughts, if you can, briefly about your campaign, finishing in 5th place overall on the season.
I think overall, with the standards we'd set ourselves in the previous 2 seasons, it was a disappointing season. I think our expectation level and the standards we'd set ourselves was that we wanted to get into the playoffs, and winning the regular season by 10 points the previous year was a huge achievement, and I believe that we had to try and set our targets high again in 2016, and we did that, but unfortunately we couldn't match them. So we're working hard in this off-season to try and make sure that we get ourselves back where we want to be, which is in and around that playoff. So,
going along with those plans for next season, do you have any more insider information to us about whether or not Hope Solo will be a part of those plans?
No, I've spoken to Hope a few times. I think she's still looking at what the next step is for her in her career. And obviously, if that was to be part of the Reign, then that would be great. But it's a unique situation. She's obviously had major shoulder surgery.
Yes, yep.
In September on that. So it's something that we're monitoring with her and having discussions with her. But yeah, no update currently.
Coach, this is Simon talking to you now. You've had a number of retirements. Of course, Kim Little leaving to go back overseas. You had Mano Mellis, one of your leading goal scorer, retire as well. So a lot of fans have reached out to us as well on Twitter. So I'm going to ask the question as well. Do you have any insight for how you're going to handle all those players leaving? Of course, you did bring in Christine Nairn as well. But as far as the NWSL draft, any other players that you may be targeting?
Yeah, we've got some players in the offing, I think, that we hopefully will be able to announce soon that we think can come into our squad and help rebuild. And I think that's the big thing for us. It's about adapting and rebuilding. And obviously the players that we've lost, someone like Kim, it's going to be really, really hard to replace her and get someone who is the same as Kim Little. That's just not going to happen. So what we're looking at trying to do is to adapt who we are and what we want to be, and get players in of the calibre that we feel can play at this level. Christine Nairn is a great example of that. She was with us in our first year and went back to Washington and continued to develop and show the player that we believe she could be. And the time was right to bring her back because we believe that she can now have a real impact on our,
absolutely,
on our side. Yeah. So there's a few of the players that we've got in the pipeline, hopefully, and obviously the college draft's coming up in January, so we have 2 picks in that currently, and we're trying to find some players who we believe have a future. And I think the college draft is always tough. It's hard to find players that can make impact necessarily straight away. If you do that, then that's a huge bonus. But I think we're looking for players that we think have potential for long term with our club now, which we're really excited about.
Talking with Laura Harvey of the Seattle Reign on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. One of the things, Coach, that we wanted to chat with you about, we've had her on the show before, Haley Koppmeyer. She is a fantastic goalkeeper and did a very good job filling in, of course, for Hope while she was gone, and just kind of handling the overall pressure of what it takes to be a goalkeeper for the Seattle Reign. What were your overall thoughts about her 11-game performance from you for you guys this season?
Yeah, Cops has had a great journey with us, really. One that I think a lot of young players can learn from. She had a tough first year where we actually released her, but kept her around the squad, and then from year 2 onwards, she's blossomed into a fantastic goalkeeper. I believe she's got huge potential to be someone that can really stamp her authority on this league. She went away to Australia last off-season and became goalkeeper of the year, which I think was a huge boost to her. So when she came back this year, and we always know in major tournament years that we were going to lose hope for a period of time.
Yeah, of course.
Haley can step in, and she did that again this year. And I think when she does that now, the biggest part of that is the confidence that she brings is that, as a club, the stress of losing hope and not having her in goal was a lot less because she knew what you were getting with Cop. She knows who she is, she knows who she wants to be, and she's working really hard to try and be the best goalkeeper she can be. So, we've justified her with that by signing on a new contract and getting her involved with the club. And, as it stands right now, if Hope doesn't come back, she'll be there for our number 1 goalkeeping spot. So she's had a huge journey, a long journey, I'm sure she'll say that, but one that we believe still got a long way to go, and she's got a lot more to give. So we're really excited for her.
Coach, I'd like to ask you about the WL League. You actually have a number of players over in Australia right now. Speaking of that earlier, do you keep an eye on those players while they're there? Do you stay in contact with them at all?
Yeah, as much as possible. It's obviously difficult with the time difference and stuff, and it's been great this year that they're actually putting one game a week on ESPN3, so that gives us a chance to watch them play. And I'm lucky enough to have 3 of mine at one club, and then Christine then at Melbourne Victory, so they're all in the same city, and then Kendall Fletcher's down in Sydney. So yeah, keep in contact as much as possible. Don't get to see them play as much as I would like, but I always constantly nag them to send me video. I think it's an important thing. I think that it's something we've utilised every off season, and for some players they love it. That's exactly what they want to go and do. I don't think Jess has had an off season ever in her whole life, because she just loves playing.
That's why she's one of the best, though, as well.
Yeah, I mean, her body probably tells her something different currently. I think sometimes it screams at her to have a break, but it's a fantastic opportunity for the players, and the league's developing, especially with some of the overseas talent from America going over there. I think it's bolstered the league, and it's a league now that a lot of players look at as an opportunity and potential to go and play, and especially those that love to travel. I think going to Australia for 4 or 5 months isn't a bad gig.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you got to feel good when you have Lauren Barnes, Jess Fishlock, and Deanna's all playing together on the same team with Melbourne City. I imagine as a coach, it's almost got to be refreshing to know that 3 of your players will be continuing to develop that chemistry with each other in your off season.
Yeah, it's great, and Jess has a huge impact and huge influence at Melbourne City in regards to recruitment. She actually does some coaching down there as well as playing, which
okay.
I'm sure Bev and Lou would have some great stories about. So yeah, it's good because from her perspective too, she's learning the other side of the game, which I think for some players is they're always going to be their next step, and I think that's definitely one for Jess. So yeah, it's great. It's a really good environment for them too. I think Melbourne released a video a couple of weeks ago of the facilities that they now have, and the girls get really looked after down there. So yeah, it's great. I think it's something that, like I say, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that, but if they feel that that's going to help them to come back to us and be ready to go for the season, then I'm all for it.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you personally for coming on. It was great talking to you. We've had a bunch of your players on as well, so it's always great when we can connect with the head coach as well. So I wish you the best of luck in 2017.
Absolutely, Coach. It's been an absolute pleasure, so we appreciate you taking the time for joining us on the show today. Can we do it again sometime soon, hopefully?
Yeah, anytime. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, Coach. Have a good rest of your day. There goes head coach of the Seattle Reign, Laura Harvey, on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. When we come back, we'll jump into the Champions League a little bit more and see what's going on. TC Ward will be here with us to help us sort through. And, of course, my Arsenal, they get to have a nice, easy, just kidding, crazy test. Bayern Munich, really? Come on. At least it's better than Barcelona. Or maybe not. We'll find out. You're listening to 2 Up Front, presented by 3 Lions Pub. Stay with us. inside the Attention Era Media Studios. It's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Great conversation in our last segment with Seattle Reign FC head coach Laura Harvey. Great to hear her perspective about everything that took place, and her comments on Haley Kottmeyer as well, too, and a lot of the other fantastic players that she got
Jess Fishlock. I didn't realize how much of an influence she had down at Melbourne City. It was cool to hear about that as well.
It's awesome to hear that. But we get to move along from the women's game over to the European men's game and talk about the Champions League.
Champions!
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly, Baxter. That's we're very excited to welcome a man back to the studio. He's helped me co-host the show.
He has.
Once or twice. He try-hosted the show with us just a few weeks back. He's the Academy Director over at Strike FC here in Wisconsin, TC Ward. TC, welcome back, man.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, TC. We are thrilled to have you back on the show. Champions League, the round of 16 draw officially taking place on Monday. And I'll be honest, as an Arsenal fan, I'm still upset. Why couldn't we have gotten Porto? Or why couldn't we have gotten anybody, basically, besides Bayern Munich? It's either Barcelona or Bayern Munich. I'm a little upset, TC. Do I have good reason to be upset? I think I do.
No, but yeah.
What do you mean, no?
Here's the thing. If you advanced out of your group in Champions League, you're a good team.
But it's Arsenal,
now,
TC.
Would it be, right, but would it be better if, especially having won the group for the first time in 5-6 years, that we did get maybe someone that is perceived to be, easier? Sure. But I don't know that Arsenal does better when they have a team that they're supposed to beat in front of them in this stage, like Monaco 2 years ago.
True.
I think if you want to do well in this, you're going to play these teams at some point. And actually, to play Bayern, having, the home field advantage for the second game is probably better than meeting a team later on where maybe because of the way it shakes out, you don't. So I would say it's not like you're doing cartwheels, or I was doing cartwheels when it came out, but for an Arsenal team in the past, I would have been more leery. But the team that, won the Champions League group stage in Group A, and the team that's playing right now in the EPL is a different Arsenal team, and this Bayern team couldn't win their group.
True. But doesn't
they're
Arsenal
not exactly the same?
Doesn't Arsenal have a contract with UEFA that this is where they end their journey every year?
It's like, great. Same time next year.
Yeah, they've got they get sponsorship dollars and stuff like that.
which they don't spend on the transfer market.
Right, and the interesting thing is like when I was reading something or watching a show a couple days before the draw, and they were saying that the statisticians had figured that the most likely opponent of Arsenal was Real Madrid at like 25%. And then the next most likely was Bayern. And I'm sitting there like, there's no way they're going to do this. They don't, whatever. And sure enough, of course, we get Bayern, who I'd probably rather play
agreed.
than Real. But, look, Bayern is stupid good. And you look at their roster, and it doesn't, as far as depth, it doesn't compare to any team in the English Premier League, or really, I don't know that there's another roster as deep as Bayern's. When you look at, guys like Robin and Ribery at this point can be coming off the bench. Thomas Müller can be coming off the bench. So it's definitely not...
It's not the worst bench to have, that's
easy,
for sure.
No. But, in the run-up to their first game in Munich, Bayern has 3 games in 10 days leading up to it, whereas Arsenal only has 2. So you wonder, that will, even though they are very deep, do they have first choice guys for that game, and things like that. I have Arsenal going through on a, just because of the way that they can now play in that first leg, instead of having to open themselves up and try and get a goal. I think that they can sit in and absorb some more and hit teams off the counter, which they've been doing really well.
They're very good at that,
in the league. And, they're not keeping clean sheets either in Champions League or in their domestic league, but I think they always have an opportunity to score. And so I think they're going to get 2 away goals, and that'll they'll tie 2-2 at the Alliance, and then it'll go back to the Emirates. they'll be able to sit in, and then they'll win 2-1. So, I mean, maybe that's the Arsenal gunner in me, but I just think this is a different Arsenal team with Mustafi added in, Xhaka and El Neni added to the depth in the middle of the midfield, protecting the back four. And, Ozil and Sanchez and Walcott are all playing at the height, at the peak of where they're at right now, or have ever played. So I just think that this is a team that is significantly better than previous teams,
Or shifting teams on you, TC. I know you could talk Arsenal for the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
I got to talk myself into that.
That's
win.
Right.
If I say it enough times, they'll hopefully win, right?
Question for you. I have to ask about Leicester. Of course, Jamie Vardy has finally breaks his goal scoring drought, and in great fashion with a hat trick against Manchester City, which I know you loved watching, TC.
Yes.
Leicester's been doing really well in Champions League. You can almost see that they've put all their money, all their chips on the table for Champions League. What about this draw for them? They get Sevilla. Obviously, Sevilla's done really well in Europa League these past few years, which is why they're in Champions League this year. Is this about the most leveled game that we're going to see, or level series, I should say, with Leicester and Sevilla?
And I think it's a team that Leicester, I mean, again, I'm not saying UEFA's corrupt with the Bayern draw and the Barcelona PSG or whatever, but this is like a story. This could have some storylines to it if things go Leicester's way, because as far as an opponent that Leicester probably wanted to play, it's a club or a team like Sevilla that is a high-pressing side that maybe is somewhat expected to win. And you see what happens to teams that high-pressed or tried to press Leicester last year.
Yeah.
And obviously a team, like Manchester City, who Guardiola does like to press a bit more and things, and they leave them, spaces behind their back line for a guy like Vardy and Mahrez to get into. And Leicester City in the Champions League, only gave up 6 goals in their 6 group games, but 5 of those came on the last day against Porto when they had already won the group and they were trying to do some different things. So really, you look at it, 1 goal in 5 games.
Not bad.
It's, I think that's where you saw kind of the Leicester of last year. And I think that Leicester's actually going to advance 2-1, just because they're going to be able to sit in and hit off a counter. I mean, they'll play for 0-0 ties if they need to, because they have the second game at home. And I think it's definitely not Sevilla is 3rd in the league right now in La Liga, and obviously they're back-to-back winners of Europa League, so they're definitely tournament gurus. But I think this is a team that Leicester wanted to, if they could pick, it's probably a team they match up well with.
One of the other things I guess I'm curious about, the fans of the soccer world always want to know, how's Real Madrid, how's Barcelona, how are those guys going to do? Or even this year, the reemergence of Borussia Dortmund as well, too. Of those 3 teams, which one's going to fall first?
Well, I don't have any of them falling in the group or in the round of 16.
Rightfully so. I'd be surprised as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think after that, it really depends on, and I don't know how after this next game how they would meet. But if I had to pick a team that probably looks the most vulnerable, or it's probably Barcelona.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
They don't have. They're just not really firing right now. They're missing opportunities in games, like against the Real Madrid, and giving up goals. That goal late to Sergio Ramos in the El Clasico.
Yes.
And I just don't think that they're the same Barcelona. But then again, they have a front 3 that's probably worth close to $1 billion in transfer fees.
Also true.
That if those guys, so they're always capable of scoring, but I just don't see them as being, where they typically are at this point to really have to make a run of it. I think Real Madrid also not exactly, they didn't win their group with Dortmund, taking that group. But they've also set a club record for 35 games unbeaten at home.
True.
And so, they've got enough talent and stuff. So I think they'll outlast the other two. I think Dortmund's really good, but when it comes down to really getting in against some of the other big sides, I think that they might not be able to penetrate or find spaces behind for Aubameyang, or however you say his name,
Aubameyang,
to really run him behind. So I would say Barcelona first, PSG. I think I think all three are going to advance the next round, but I just think Barcelona will get by PSG, and probably in the next round they might be on their way.
Well, Baxter's across from me. TC, it's always great having you on the show. Like I said, we could talk to you all day about this. We'll make sure that we check in with you in the Champions League, maybe
Absolutely.
After this round and heading into the quarterfinals. So, TC Ward, Academy Director over at Strike FC, thank you for joining us today.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, TC. All right, there he goes on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. When we come back, we'll take a look at what happened in MLS Cup. I'm curious to get Simon's thoughts, and we'll see if we can continue to try to sort through some of this crazy MLS offseason business. It's only 2 days, but still, lots happened. We'll talk about that and more. It's Two Up Front, presented by Three Lines Pub. Back after this. Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub from the Attention Era Media Studios. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Rolling along with the program. Special thanks to Laura Harvey and TC Ward for joining us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. All guests do appear on that call-in line, and we look forward to many more guests appearing as well. Simon, how was your weekend? Did you have a nice weekend?
I did, Baxter. I
What'd you do?
don't know what I all did. I know I watched MLS Cup.
Yeah, it was an interesting final.
Yeah, what else did I do? That's so far away.
So far away. It was 2 days ago.
Yeah, so far away.
I guess. Well, you're mentally not fully here because we know you're preparing for surgery on Thursday.
Well, that's actually Tuesday. Next Tuesday that I have surgery, the 20th.
Oh, that's right.
But nevertheless, I'm taking this week to try to get a lot of stuff done.
Frantically racing around the house.
Yeah, the house, the city, the county, the state.
My goodness. No matter where you need Simon Provan, he will be there fixing things and helping the world become a better place, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's the theory anyways.
Exactly.
Sure, sounds good.
Fair enough. All right, well, MLS Cup 2016 did take place Saturday evening in Toronto. Over 36,000 people attended, a BMO
Great
Field
atmosphere.
record, and it took until penalty kicks for the Seattle Sounders to win their first MLS Cup, 5-4 on penalty kicks after Roman Torres scored the final kick of the ball. Your immediate reaction, Simon, from this final?
It was surprisingly dull. My initial reaction is I thought the first 20 minutes, the first half in and of itself, that wasn't so dull, but as the game went on, it got duller and duller. And here's the big thing why for me. I tweeted this out. I said, in the style of Chris Farley, so some people will get this. Remember that time when MLS Cup teams used to use their midfield? Yeah, that was really cool. We didn't see that in this game. It was just, there was so much long ball, both of them trying to take advantage of I don't even know what.
Well, I think both teams overcompensated for each other's midfield. If you talk about it, it's like, Seattle's got a great midfield. Oh, Toronto's got a great midfield. They just kind of canceled each other completely out. And it was like, well, let's just play the ball down the wing for 90 minutes to Jovan Jones and to Stephen Beitashour and hope for the best.
Right.
That's really what it came down to.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because what you would like these teams to look at their own team and say, we've got a strong midfield. Let's take advantage of it.
Exactly.
We've got Michael Bradley. We've got a Nicholas Ladero. But it was very dull. And then you get to the penalty kicks, and you see Michael Bradley put up such a disappointing pass to Stephen Fry. Now, that's the one thing. All right, Stephen Fry made this game exciting.
He did.
And that save that he had off of Josie Altidore, going one way, getting his body to lean the other, scooping the ball just outside of the goal.
Yeah.
That was great. That was world class. I do appreciate that the teams went after it, that they weren't afraid to work the ball upfield. What was odd for me for Seattle, though, is they seemed so trigger shy the entire game. Well, they didn't have a shot on goal.
No, they had 3 total shots over 120 minutes, not a single one on goal.
Not a single one on goal. First team to win MLS Cup without a shot on goal.
That right there really made me upset. I was like, "Are you?" But no, you shouldn't get it.
But it was just so odd because you'd see Morris with the ball just outside the 18, not rip a shot.
Yeah, or Ladero, or Alonso.
Right, everybody. You'd see them make a run down the midfield, and all they were doing were looking to cross. Every once in a while, you'd see them cut in, and if they'd rip a shot, they had an opportunity. Mm-hmm. Now, Toronto's defense did play a lot better than I expected them to. They did get in Seattle's faces a lot, but there were several opportunities throughout the game where Seattle had a clear opportunity at goal and just wouldn't pull the trigger, and it was incredibly odd. It was really weird, especially when you're playing in that type of weather. I know on the field it was apparently 60 degrees because it was a heated field. But
still,
but to not test a goalkeeper, especially like Clint Irwin, we've seen him through the season make some major blunders.
Yeah.
So why not take advantage and make him work for some saves?
You're absolutely right. Even Stephen Fry too. He's had a back and forth kind of 2016 campaign as well too. There was the talent was on the field to make this game exciting, and then the whistle blew, and then they all forgot how to play soccer for 120 minutes. And I am a huge advocate. I hate scoreless games for 120 minutes and then a penalty kick winner. I just hate soccer games
and I totally
like that.
get that. I get that. I think it can be just as exciting as a 5-5 game.
I think if there's 120 minutes worth of end-to-end action where both teams are like, holy cow, like what a great save or what a great shot, like I get that. But like as you mentioned, the first half pretty decent. Second half, about 20 minutes in, I was like, son of a gun, we're gonna go to penalty kicks. I'm like, I just knew it. I just know that's where we're going. And even when Josie, like when Stephen Fry made the save, I was like, of course he made the save.
But see, now that for me is just as good as a goal.
Yes.
Seeing a save like that is just as good as a goal.
Had we seen that for 90 minutes or 120 minutes, I'd have been like, holy cow, best MLS Cup ever. I'd have been fine with the penalty kick. Be like, there's no way to separate these two teams. But I just was really disappointed, honestly.
Well, and of course, the surprise substitution of Giovinco. There's some controversy there.
Why? He was injured.
Well, that's
the thing.
I was
so confused by people.
Some people were claiming that, no, the reason he was so upset is he didn't wave himself off. And other people are saying, no, watch the footage. He waves himself off.
I had a friend text me, and he was like, why is Giovinco coming off the field? I'm like, because he is very obviously hurt. He can't walk. I'm like, don't put your star player through that.
Well, and if you get that sense that you're going into penalties, you don't keep an injured player on the field. You try to put in somebody there that's going to be able to take a shot.
And I thought Toussaint Ricketts did a great job. He had probably the best chance for Toronto to score in extra time, too, with that outside of his foot one-time volley that literally kissed the outside of the post. But I thought Ricketts did a fantastic job. Well,
we mentioned this at the beginning of the show. He's been a great sub for Toronto.
I would take him on New England. I would be more than fine with him in New England, honestly. Yeah, it was an interesting game. I mean, I think the players that came on the field for both teams were the appropriate players. Benoit Giroux, Will Johnson, and then Toussaint Ricketts for TFC, and then Andres Ivanschitz, Alvaro Fernandez, and Brad Evans. Those are the guys of the available subs that I would have been like, yeah, you guys should go on the field right now. And I like I said, and I think it was interesting too because when I was watching the game and when Michael Bradley had his penalty kick save, similar to your reaction, everyone's like, why did he do that? And my first thought is, well, if he'd have made it, no one would have cared. You know?
Absolutely.
That's the weird thing with penalty kicks. You could literally tap the ball, but if it goes in and the keeper dives the wrong way, everyone's like, whoa, how cheeky.
Yeah, or I would argue too, though, sometimes you hear, man, was he lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
I just, if you're stepping up for a PK, for a championship, just hit the thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that had to do with tired legs.
I agree.
I don't think Bradley meant to hit that ball as weakly as he did, and I think he meant it to go a lot farther right because that was that ball was so slow that Fry could have guessed the wrong way, gotten up and gotten back and still saved it. That's what was so poor about Bradley's penalty kick taken.
I agree with you on that one too. And Justin Morrow, of course, having his decisive penalty kick rock off the crossbar. I was very much like, it's RSL SKC all over again with, I can't even think of the player that hit it off the crossbar that allowed Sporting Kansas City to win. But it was, you look at those last like 2 or 3 penalty kicks, those were high class top 90 penalty kicks. Those guys knew what they were doing. And I'm like, these guys were going last? I was like, wow. I'm like, the fact that you were lucky enough to get to them, I thought was fantastic.
Now, who was the last PK taker for Seattle? Did you have that up on your screen?
Roman Torres?
Torres, yeah.
Like the winner one, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah, it was great. I don't know if you caught this on the broadcast, but Schmetzer wanted to put him first or second, and he said no.
Ladero did. Ladero was the guy that said he wanted to go fifth. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I could have sworn it was whoever scored the game-winning goal.
I thought it was Ladero.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I thought it was Ladero from what I
Either way, Ladero had, man, that to me was almost the highlight of the game.
Yes,
his PK. Upper 90, slammed it in there, total confidence.
I love how Josie's penalty kick too. He lost his footing, just like I put literally everything I have left in the tank into that penalty kick, just go in the goal, and I'm like, wow, that was a good shot.
So I don't mind that it ends on penalty kicks.
Now, had the whole game been that as exciting as the penalty kick shot, once again,
and of course, the unfortunate thing is, Baxter, it's the first time since 2008 that this championship game is on network TV.
Yeah.
And to have it be but here's what I say is championship games, it's not unusual for them to be bore fests.
It's true.
And usually it's because they're playing so carefully with moving the ball up the field. In this case, it was just skipping over the midfield. But if the networks were smart, they'd be putting the semifinal games on network television.
Imagine if they'd have put the TFC Montreal game on Fox. Just imagine that. That would have been wall-to-wall action.
You think about Champions League, you think about the World Cup. It's always the semifinals that are the most exciting, and the reason is they want to get to that final.
Yeah.
So they're not playing safe. They're saying, no, we're going to get there. We got to get there.
Exactly.
So it's all-out blitz.
I completely agree with you on that one. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially from that aspect of kind of things. It's like, look, we got to get there, so we're going to throw everything at it, and the final will be a whole nother strategy kind of thing. But I think for those that were really expecting, myself included, for a lot of goals to take place, we're obviously disappointed. You had said 3-2, I had said 2-1, and then, what happened, of course. But I think Toronto has a lot of good things to build on going into next season. Seattle as well. They're going to have to figure out how to consistently replace Clint Dempsey. They need to go find another striker to help combat Jordan Morris. I don't know if Jordan Morris is a full-time outside midfielder.
Right, exactly.
It just seems a little anti-Jordan Morris. Like, it works at times, but you need somebody else to help with the 1-2 punch.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is I did talk about how Seattle had a stronger defensive unit than Toronto, and I thought they played up to that, especially against Stephen Fry there in goal. But I thought the players in back for Seattle did a wonderful job, and I just think the Toronto FC players surprised a lot of people defensively. Listen, I know Justin Morrow's a good player, Badashore's a good player.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see, going all the way back to the top of the show, Baxter. It was interesting to see how much free agency did help out Toronto FC when you think about Will Johnson, when you think about Stephen Badashore. Or Drew Moore is another one. I think Will Johnson was actually a trade.
But they got all those players out of free agency last year. And looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, that's a good signing. Or, oh, wow. It's like, okay.
So then when you want to say to the league and you want to say to the players on the next CBA, look at how this little bit of free agency has helped one team. Now, open up the doors a lot more. Players hold to wanting free agency. Strike if you have to strike. But this is a positive thing for the league.
I'd agree.
The league's got to take off the training wheels.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. I'm curious to see how this, free agency year 2 goes. There's a lot of good players around. We'll see what happens after the expansion draft today as well, too, which will be taking place as soon as we get off the air at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can go and watch that on MLSsoccer.com. And we'll know a lot more, of course, about what to expect from the Loons and from United as well. Are they going to be called United, or I don't know what the best way to identify them as.
Officially, they're both United, so they're united in entering the league in the same year. See what I did there? But the Loons, it's their
Loons.
It's not their official nickname, but that's what the fans call them.
Yes, exactly. So, they're even listed on MLSsoccer.com for like one of the things is like, oh, the Loons did this. It's like, okay, obviously. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe ATL for Atlanta. I don't know what you're going to
I don't know.
The Red Blacks. Ottawa's got that. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap the show up, do an I Believe, and see what else happens. We got 10 minutes left to spare, so who knows what's going to take place on 2 Up Front. It's 2 Up Front presented by Three Lions Pub. Right after this, we'll be back. It's 2 Up Front presented by Three Lions Pub from the Attention Era Media Studios. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon Provan, as we roll along with the show, reminder, you can find the show Tuesdays and Thursdays live from 12 to 1 p.m. Central Time right here on Spreaker.com, and you can go to our website, 2upfrontsoccer.com, to find past episodes of the program as well.
Yeah, check us out on Facebook, 2 Up Front, and check us out on Twitter at 2 Up Front Soccer. That's the number 2 you're looking for, Up Front Soccer, and at Baxter Colburn and at Simon Provan are our personal handles.
Yes, indeed. Simon, I was just asking you this off the air. Rumors apparently that Fernando Adi of your Portland Timbers may be going to Glasgow Rangers. That'd be interesting.
I'm going to do my best Craig Burnley impersonation from ESPN FC. Well, here's the thing, Baxter. It'd be very interesting to have the Timbers send 2 players overseas. Now I'm doing more Irish. And I really have to find it. Anyways, let's see. I got to do it. Great. That's great. Here we go. So in Celtic, you'd have Darlington Nagby coming through, playing in the midfield there. That'd be a great move for Celtic. They're really strong, top of the Premier League table the way it is in Scotland on 40 points. Rangers right behind them, though. So they could use a great forward. Not scoring too many goals so far, only 23 on the season, so having a big, strong player like Fernando Adi in there for them could be a big improvement. We'll have to see what happens.
You're absolutely right about that. We'll have to see.
That was pretty good, wasn't it?
That was actually good, yeah. No, you did a pretty good job.
But seriously, you are looking at this. The Rangers, who of course had been in the lower divisions because they were sanctioned for bankruptcy and all that fun stuff, only 23 goals on the season. You look at Celtic, 43. So you're looking at a difference of 20 goals there. So Adi could play a strong role for the Rangers. Of course, you got to wonder how much would that transfer fee be. I mean, Adi's still very important to the Timbers.
Timbers just got a forward, too, and Kennedy Igbananike as well, too, and a trade from DC United. He is technically on the expansion draft available players, of course, since they just made the trade. But another strong, fast forward for you guys, though. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, it depends. What kind of system does Porter want to use? Does he want to switch more to a 3-5-2, or maybe you're going to use some of that speed? Does he want to stick with more of a 4-3-2-1 like he had with Adi in that system, where he becomes that target forward? So it really all depends on what type of system Porter wants to use.
Exactly. No, I completely agree with you on that one. I mean, Portland has some things to figure out next year, of course, because of all the injuries to the back line. So do you spend more time in the offseason improving your back line? Especially if maybe Nat Borchers does get picked.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. I think that has to be priority. You had too many injuries, and it really showed the lack of depth in the back line for Portland. They can't have that again. They cannot have that again. Doesn't mean you spend all your money on your back line, but you need to shore that up first and foremost.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. New England, I think I would love to see them just get a little bit more defense. Realistically, I think the offensive power is there. Maybe another forward to help kind of take off a little bit of the pressure from Kai Kamara and Juan Agudelo. I think you've got two good forwards there, but I think a third forward to kind of be a good change of pace, like a Toussaint Ricketts or somebody like that would be great. But defensively, New England needs a lot of help.
Well, speaking of shoring up and development, there was an interesting development in, what would be the MLS-USL connection. And this one concerns me, Baxter, but FC Montreal has been folded. That was the second team for the Montreal Impact. And the Impact have signed agreement with Ottawa Fury to basically use the Fury as, for using American language, as their farm team.
Yeah, the feeder. Yep.
The reason this is interesting, first of all, Ottawa had recently announced that they were dropping from the NASL down to the USL. And, of course, when all this gets figured out, it may be just a slide across to the USL. The Ottawa Fury, that is, if USL gets that Division 2 status. But what's interesting about this is you have the Voyageurs Cup in Canada, with basically the Canadian Championship that decides who goes on to Champions League. It's basically a very small version of the U.S. Open Cup.
Sure.
Now, in the U.S. Open Cup, and much like in Europe as well, in the Open Cup, they don't allow teams that are owned or run by a parent team. For example, LA Dos does not get to play in U.S. Open Cup. They did it in their first year of existence, but not anymore.
Makes sense.
And then even teams like Rio Grande Valley, who are not owned by Houston, but they have a very strong relationship with Houston. Players are loaned out to them. Rio Grande is not allowed to compete in the U.S. Open Cup.
Makes sense.
The Canadian Championship is small enough the way it is. You don't know if FC Edmonton is going to be back next year. So that leaves you basically the 3 MLS teams and Ottawa. If they follow the same thing, and I was referring to Europe, now in Europe, even during a regular season game, if a player is loaned from one team to another, when those two teams play each other in the regular season, that player is not allowed to play because they don't want any type of collusion to happen where basically the parent club says, hey, we really need the points for this game, so lay down one for us.
Yeah.
So you wonder what does that mean for the Voyageurs Cup, and fans are up in arms about this. And the reason I say it's a concern is what type of signal are you sending as the Montreal Impact of how much you care about the development of your players and, quite frankly, the development of your academy?
You're right, yeah, because how much do we hear about, FC Dallas has a fantastic academy, or the LA Galaxy have got a fantastic academy from coming through the reins, but yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. I mean, you have to, at the end of the day, you're only as good as your academy, really, at the end, because that's the future. You can spend as much money as you want to now, but if you're not developing players at a young age, that's why we see guys in Europe, of course, come all the way through the ranks and then get those first team minutes, and people be like, wow, he's such a good player. It's like, well, yeah, he's been in our academy system for the last 6 years, and that's why he knows the system. That's why he was able to come on at 18, 19 years old and make an immediate impact. So I think that if MLS wants to continue to grow and say, hey, we want to compete with the big leagues, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not unusual to have second teams in a lower division.
Of course not. No, I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, if MLS wants to continue to try to compete at a high level, they need to put more focus on their academies and the youth, because America is massive. There's kids all over the country that want to play soccer, and these academies could go a long way to discovering the next people. Because how many times do we say, well, how come America doesn't get a Messi? How come America doesn't get a Ronaldo? Well, we probably have one buried somewhere, but we just aren't putting the focus from an academy level for the pro teams on the youth as much of a priority as it should be, I think.
Right, yeah, I completely agree with that. But so it'll be interesting to see how this moves forward. You do wonder, were the discussions about this before Ottawa announced they were dropping from the NASL, and was this part of that decision making of, hey guys, if we drop to USL, then we can officially have a relationship with Montreal Impact, and those resources and everything else that comes along with that relationship. Was that a major playing point or decision point for them dropping to the USL?
Yeah, and now Montreal will be the only team that will have an affiliate team that isn't a secondary team, because they've got Vancouver Whitecaps 2 or Whitecaps 2 and TFC 2.
Oh, out of the Canadian teams.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now Montreal will have FC Edmonton instead.
Ottawa Fury.
Ottawa Fury. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what takes place, but Canada always seems to have a little something cooked up for us.
Do we have time for one more thing that's also interesting?
Fastly, yes.
Okay. So, quasi-news broke that Beckham was giving up on Miami.
Yes.
And heading to Las Vegas now.
Not my son, Beckham, by the way.
Right, yes.
He loves Miami. It's beautiful.
So, of course, the Beckham camp came out and said, no, listen, we are really dedicated to Miami. But apparently now we know that they have made a go at 4 different stadium sites, have been turned down every single time.
Yep.
They've had a go at asking other investors to get involved. Those investors have said no. At what point do you say, give up on Miami? Not just David Beckham, but MLS, give up on this.
As long as there's a potential source of money, Don Garber's going to be like, keep going, it's great.
Well, here's the thing, is what I don't get is, if granted, I know they're not fans, but if they can't get any foothold, any backing from anybody in Miami, what makes them think that this franchise would be successful?
Agreed. No, I completely agree with you on that one. Maybe he should just jump on what Tampa Bay is doing, and at least, or another club that is actually going to be trying to push for expansion right now. But at some point, Beckham needs to realize that yes, this is maybe just not going to work, but you can still help the team expand. Why not? No, I don't think any team is going to say no, David Beckham, don't come help us. Get into MLS, but learn when one fight is over and pick a better fight that you actually have a better chance of winning.
Well, and I will say this. If it were true that he was actually heading to Las Vegas, there's another one I'm shaking my head at.
Vegas is not a soccer market. It just isn't.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.
Time now to close up the show with our I Believe segment, where Simon and I both offer something we believe will take place in the soccer world. Simon, would you like to go first, sir?
I will. It's going to be on track with what we were just talking about, Baxter, about 5 minutes ago. I believe that the relationship between Montreal and Ottawa will last for a couple of years, and that'll be it.
Yeah, I'm curious, especially with the talks about the Canadian Premier League as well coming around. We'll have to see if that actually does take place, of course. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to end up working out for him, honestly. I'm going to use my I Believe actually to be more personal and wish my son, Beckham, a happy 1 month.
There you go.
As well. So it's been a fast month, a crazy month, but excited for him that he continues to grow and get bigger each and every day. So happy 1 month, Beckham.
Happy 1 month, Beckham.
Not happy birthday. Happy, I want to say happy birthday, right. But you can't. It's like happy 1 month to you. It's weird. But either way, we're a weird family in the Colburn house. But that's irrelevant. So we had a fantastic show today. A very special thanks to Laura Harvey of the Seattle Reign and TC Ward from Strike FC for joining us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. If you missed any of our show today, go to our website, 2upfrontsoccer.com, and check it out. You can also get it on the Sports Podcasting Network and on Spreaker.com as well.
Yeah, find us on Facebook, 2UpFront. Just put that in the search bar. We'll pop up. Find us on Twitter, at 2UpFrontSoccer. The number 2 is what you need. At Baxter Colburn and at Simon Provan.
All right, Simon Provan. You enjoy your Wednesday, and we'll see you back here on Thursday, right?
That's the
plan.
You're
not leaving me yet?
Not
Next
yet.
Tuesday,
not yet.
You'll be...
I'll be gone. I'll be knocked out.
Yes.
Recovering, hopefully well.
Exactly.
If I die, I'll have Sarah send you a text.
Okay, good. Simon's dead. Okay, thanks. I'm sorry. Oh, well, it's all good. He's not dead yet. Neither of us are. He's Simon Provan.
I'm not dead yet.
I'm Baxter Colburn, with our manager being the one above. We are 2 Up Front.